Anyway, how's your week been? Another one of those? Yeah, I know.
It's going, dude. It's going. Just
Yeah.
I'm trying to beat through the horror that is in my head and keep going.
Do you ever do anything for yourself? You know, to to yeah. So
Not
so
anymore. I
so
don't have
so
time.
yeah. It's hard to find time. It's my morning time, my early morning time by myself
Are you already
is
recording? Okay.
yeah. Just because last time you're like, we gotta
Well,
record
matter
this.
because you never
So
know what's going to happen in a
yeah,
casual conversation.
yeah. I started. I don't know what maybe started exactly. Probably something I heard somebody say or read, and I've got to have my alone time to recharge to kind of so I can face people for the day. And I know I don't seem like I don't. It's not that I don't like people. I love people, but sometimes being around people just kind of wears you down. But so yeah,
Oh yeah, I love Coke, but I'm only going to drink one. I'm not going to drink a gallon.
yeah, right.
Sometimes I want a
So
water or something.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So I come out here in the morning and have my time by myself and do whatever I feel like I need to do to recharge. And when I don't get that, I tend to get pretty grumpy. Um, and my wife understands. She's like, "Yeah, please." She'll say, "You didn't get your alone time really this morning, did you?" Not really. No.
Go do it now.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yep.
Huh.
Well, we had an interesting week and a half. I took my son to Utah. He's moving out there with his oldest brother, and then Emily flew out. So he and I had a good ride out there together. It was kind of hectic. We drove pretty hard, made the trip in 2 days, but I enjoyed the time with him. And then coming back, she and I took a little more time. We got to do not as much as we wanted, but we got to go see the Grand Canyon, and we spent a half a day at the Petrified Forest National Park.
Yeah, I've been through that.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I had a piece of rock from there at home, but it burned in a fire.
Yeah, I thought it was totally worth the half a day we spent. I would could have spent the whole day there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, if you've never seen how otherworldly parts of the planet can look, that's a pretty cool place. Yeah.
The Painted Desert, I think they call it, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's at the one end of it. We actually drove across the rest of the Painted Desert, but it was dark.
You didn't go through a place called Jerome, did you?
I don't remember.
It's not far from Flagstaff.
So we're
Did
gonna.
you come that low?
No, the plan was to stay the night in Flagstaff, and then we found out how much hotel rooms were in Flagstaff, and went, never mind, I'll just drive all night. So we turned off of. We were on 89 alternate because we had gone to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, so we're coming down that way, and we took some other little highway to cut over to 40, and it cut that corner off from Flagstaff, and that was interesting too. It took us across some of the. Well, we already went across some of the Indian reservation, but we were coming across this little 2-lane road, and that had us turn on some other little 2-lane road. And as we're making that turn, Emily goes, "Look, a deer! Whoa, whoa! Are those elk?" And about 20 elk in the road and on both sides, and we don't get to see that out here either. Yeah. So that was a nice. I gotta say, escape from reality in a way. I got away from my life for a little while, and sometimes you need that.
No, the only reason I asked about Jerome is it's a well-known ghost town in that area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's in a mountain, on a mountain, and it was a mining town, and the city started collapsing into the mine.
Okay.
They dug out too much from under themselves, and it's a ghost town now, but it's still inhabited, but there's a lot of it it's not. It's just weird to go through there knowing that people had to leave because they're afraid their house was going to fall in a hole. And you're still driving through it, so you're thinking, well, I'm guessing it's not going to fall in, but
yeah, hopefully the road won't just cave in, right?
Yeah.
Did you stop there and see anything, or did you just drove through?
It was evening. Later in the evening, we went through. We were headed to my uncle was headed to see, if you've ever heard of her, Elizabeth Clare Prophet.
I remember the name. Who was that?
She was a self-proclaimed. She says she was a reincarnated wife of some saint or something, or some reincarnated. They got in trouble a few years back. Moved to Kansas or something. Were stockpiling weapons. That's where the
Okay.
last heard of them. But when we went up there, they had just dedicated a new home in California. They called it Camelot. But I don't know. I don't remember that much about her. I think she was kind of nutty, but pretty radical.
Okay.
But that's what we went for. And
Radical in a political sense, or like David Koresh, religious radical?
at the time, I think she would have given Koresh a run for his money, but um, I don't think she was drink the purple Kool-Aid kind of crazy.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, hang on.
I only went on a trip because we were going through Chula Vista, which was where I was born, and I hadn't been there since I was a child.
Okay.
So we went back to the house I lived in, or the apartment I lived in, and interestingly enough, the hole in the wall was still there. The hole in the wall being where my mother backed the car into the stucco and poked a hitch through it.
Really?
And the hole was still there.
Huh. So, and how long ago was that?
It would have been in 1965.
And when did you go back to visit?
1978.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's interesting to go back and see some of the childhood memory stuff,
Well, they weren't for me because I was 2 when we left, but, I went and looked at stuff Mom had told me about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got out of California when the getting was good.
Right. Yeah. You're a trendsetter. Everybody's trying to get out now. You're ahead of the curve.
I just read in the paper the day that Atlanta's the #1 place to live in the country, so apparently people are stupid still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would come from California and go to Atlanta?
I don't know. They go into Austin and other places, and I wish they'd stay in California. the ones, yeah, on the left, just stay.
I think have everything from the San Andreas Fault over.
Right? Yeah, just stay there.
Yeah, the United States of whatever the hell they want to be.
That's right. But no, we had to have movie studios in Atlanta, so they all want to come here now, I guess, or some of them anyway. And
well, we do for now, depending on what the political climate is, since they like to threaten everybody over politics.
Yeah.
If you vote for him, we won't do any films in your state.
Really?
You
promise? Is that a promise?
Oh, he just won my vote.
Right?
Why you voting for him? You don't like him because they'll leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Tell us who else.
To be perfectly honest with you, when it comes to movies and stuff these days, I'm just as happy with Netflix and Hulu's own made stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't really care about all the mainstream.
I don't have TV. I know we have like a Hulu account. I just don't watch that much. I don't have time to watch a whole lot. But when we do watch it, it's usually one of the Hulu things or one of the homemade stuff or a rerun of an old sitcom that I used to really enjoy. Although the really good ones are hard to find. Archie Bunker apparently is not in favor, or
No, because he was too real.
Yeah,
might hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
No, Andy Griffith used to be readily available. Now you got to hunt him up.
Yeah, it's tough to
be
find.
More wholesome than Andy Griffith,
and that's probably the problem.
Yeah,
it's too wholesome. Not enough wokeness in Andy Griffith.
Yeah, he didn't. I guess he didn't have a black deputy.
No.
Did he? Wasn't there a part time when he did?
There might have been maybe a show. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not enough.
By the way, I know probably I'm going to ask you this because I haven't really asked you. I think me and you are coming at this from two different directions.
Okay.
All right. I think you're probably a lot more limited with what you can say than I am. I don't know because I don't know your political climate, your family. Mine is I don't care what anybody thinks, so I'm not limited.
Right. No.
I don't know if you share that or not.
So, as far as on here, I don't feel limited here. The family that I have would not be happy with my political point of view, already know my political point of view, and they're not going to watch this.
So then maybe you are safe. I don't know if you'd say the things I'd say, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that you might find me sometimes just not saying something. I don't know why I might not say. I don't know.
Well, the only issue I can see is that sometimes, occasionally, I mean, it's hard to believe, but sometimes I'll say something that can be, I don't know, a little bit provocative. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think when I talk to people, they're not really able to answer the way that I think they want to answer. So I don't know if that's going to be the case here. It
I
doesn't
don't know.
matter, but I
Yeah.
mean, it'd be easy to say. I mean, if you ever ask me something that I don't want to answer, I'm going to tell you, you know what? I don't want to answer that. I just
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't need to give you a reason or excuse. It's just something I don't want to
Sure.
answer. Same thing would be fine with you, but I think it's going to be very unlikely you're ever going to get me to that point.
Okay.
So
Yeah. No. So if you want to ask me something, ask away.
I don't have anything
Oh,
particular. I was
okay.
just
All right.
curious.
Yeah.
I just because I'm trying to figure out. I mean, right now we don't really know even what we're doing yet.
Right.
So if we don't know what we're doing, we really don't even know what kind of boundaries to set,
Right.
if any. But me, I don't have boundaries. So if there's going to be boundaries,
Right.
you're going to have to set them.
The only boundaries that I feel, and it's a shame that we have to have any at all, but I don't want to say, I don't want to venture off in a territory that would get the videos taken down by YouTube.
And I have no idea what that would be.
Um, I don't know. You know, I don't think other people really know either. I mean, that there's some idea they have rules that's about things that you can't be you can't be too mean and you
Oh
can't
yeah.
have disinformation and this and that. It's
Well, that makes sense. I mean,
right,
sharing an opinion about something, you can share it in a mean way. You can share it in an information way.
right,
And as far as misinformation, the bottom line is that I'll say now, just to cover all my bases, the majority of what I talk about is just my opinion.
yeah,
Because if there's misinformation, to me, until someone shows me different, it's not misinformation.
right, and that's where some of the problem, in my opinion, comes in because there are so many things that have been deemed misinformation. Let's say in the past 5 years, which then came to light. It's not really misinformation, the the Russia collusion hoax, for example. Yeah,
Yeah, it
not
was
not
misinformation
misinformation.
for a long time, and then it became
Yeah, and now we just found out recently that the FBI tried to pay Steele $1 million to corroborate his own information, and he couldn't or wouldn't do it. Wouldn't because he couldn't. It's
yeah.
my belief, but yeah.
Well,
So
personally, the way I would see it is, I think you should be respectful with your language. I don't think we should say anything that demeans people. We can talk about things that have been said about people that's demeaning to determine what our position on it.
right,
But I wouldn't out and out insult someone.
you don't have to.
Well,
It's
but then
just
again, now you got to figure out where the line is, because I made the statement. Andy Griffith never had a black deputy. All right. Now,
right.
someone could say that was a shot at somebody, but it's not, because it makes me wonder, if someone had a problem with Andy Griffith and he had a black deputy, would that be what the catalyst required to make them feel the show was okay?
Yeah, yeah,
And the only way you're going to know that is if someone out there sees it and goes, this is what I thought.
yeah.
So do I have a problem with it? No. Would I have had a problem with it if the whole cast was black? No.
Right,
None of that matters to me, but I don't know
right.
how it matters to anyone else until they say, hey, this is how I see it.
If it matters to somebody, this is my opinion. If it matters to somebody, then they're being awfully judgmental of a great show which was created in a different era
Yeah.
when things were different.
And everything in that show was normal for that era.
Right. And should, in hindsight, should things have been different? A lot of things should have been different,
Mm-hmm.
in our country. But we can't go back and change it. And since we can't change it, that doesn't mean we should cancel it.
Right. We should learn from it.
Yeah.
What should be happening is somebody should say, you know what, I'd like to have a wholesome show like that again that fits our time.
Right.
And now it's all of a sudden it's the same kind of idea, the same kind of family ideals, with a smelting pot of
Yeah.
races and religions and all coming together. And I think if they made TV like that and showed that people can get along that don't agree with each other, maybe the rest of the world would get along without agreeing with each other.
Maybe.
But what is our TV? If I don't like you, I shoot you. If I don't like you, I put you in jail. If I don't like you, I railroad you. If I don't like
Right.
your beliefs, I shut you down.
Yeah.
What do you expect out of humanity if that's all they see?
Right.
And we're still educatable. We're adults, yeah, but we're still
Right.
educatable.
So that brings to my mind the question then, is that intentional so that you're normalizing shutting people down? So you're normalizing canceling folks. So you're normalizing that kind of thing because then that gives those who would like to have power over everybody else, it makes it okay when they start doing it. You know.
I think probably some of it is intentional, but where it gets gray is, say you wanted to do a show that's based on what you see. You don't necessarily condone it,
Right.
but you're showing what you see. So somehow or another, you have to educate the people that you're trying to educate them as to what you anticipate, what you take in as a reality, not that you approve of it. So now they got to
Right.
put a disclaimer up in front of every one of them. This is not what we believe. But
Right.
so how do you determine what's intentional and what's not? The bottom line is a young person watching TV, he's not going to read the disclaimer. And
No,
he's
right.
only going to see it as a cross section of the reality he's already in anyway.
Yeah. And not paying attention to the disclaimer leads you to the War of the Worlds situation,
Panic.
the radio show where people,
Everybody freaked out.
Yeah, because nobody listened to the disclaimer.
Yeah.
So,
it's easy to be misled.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's only because it's easy for us to allow ourselves to be misled. It's not because it's easy for someone to take control of you.
Right.
The only way that someone else can get control of your car is if you let them have the wheel. That's simple.
Yeah. True. Okay. So some of this kind of comes down to some free speech stuff. What can you say that's okay, that's not okay? I'm curious, and I don't know if you've heard or not, but I'm curious about your opinion, your take on the Alex Jones stuff that's been going on, where he's been sued, and he recently lost another case. He's now been ordered to pay to the victims of Sandy Hook almost $1 billion for the things that he said, that were said by him or maybe by others on his show. And some of that just came down to his opinion, but they still held him liable. I don't know if you may not even be familiar with any of this at all. So, and I don't watch a lot of Alex Jones. I mean, it's interesting that some of the stuff that he talks about ends up being true, but a lot of what he talks about is just kind of out there. But after the Sandy Hook shooting, he had made some comments that he says were his opinion, as I recall, that some of the stuff didn't really happen, that some of the kids weren't really shot, or that that some of the parents were
actors. I remember something about actors because there were pictures of them at multiple places.
Right, that maybe some of them were actors, or that some of them, even that some of them not necessarily actors, but were, I think, using
paid to be
their dead children to somehow gain notoriety and that kind of thing, and there were some comments made, whether by him or somebody else on his show, that that some of the kids weren't actually killed, or that the whole thing was staged somehow, and
the pictures I'm referring to is a number of the people that were at the Sandy Hook filmed by media were also filmed at other shootings in other states by the media.
Okay.
And it's pretty obvious from the pictures it's the same people. So there was question about that.
That's interesting.
Now, what we can do with pictures these days, we can manipulate pictures, but it's usually not hard to tell if you know what to look for.
Right.
So, what do you want to know what I think about it?
And that's probably not deep fake stuff. And the new deep fake technology makes it harder. But yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah, well, your opinion on the lawsuit and him being ordered to pay over what may or may not have been. Where does free speech cross the line into something that becomes defamatory, and then monetarily liable?
Did he do anything slanderous or defamation?
Well, that was kind of what the ruling was, that he had somehow
So the things
defamed
he
these
said,
people.
the thing he said directly cost those people money.
So, okay.
Defamation has to cause a provable effect on your income, your money.
Well, that's what. Now I don't know about where he was sued, but I know I can speak for Georgia, that you have to prove that it actually cost you money, or that it cost you a loss of standing in your community, a loss of social standing in your community, and yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know that those people lost any social standing or lost any money.
No.
So I mean, they were just mad.
Yep. And nowadays, if you want to give your opinion, you got to be ready to pay, because weak people, when they're faced with an opinion they don't like, lash out, and usually financially. And you've got all these shyster lawyers that are just waiting for something new to sue for. So they do this. I think it's honestly, I think it's crap. I think all it's doing is proving the weakness of, to me, in my opinion, is proving an overall weakness of the Sandy Hook community. Possibly a weakness because of what happened. Possibly a weakness of being allowed to be drawn in by one of these lawyers.
Okay.
I think a Christian community, a true Christian community,
right.
which I'm not familiar with any that I would point out right now that are what are true Christian communities, would have said, well, it's his opinion. It doesn't have any effect on us. Let's just move forward. But we ride the community train until we see a time we can get off, make some money, and get back on. That's how it works. That's what I see in this country.
Yeah.
I think it's appalling that they would do this. I think it's absolutely, well, I don't know. It ruins my faith in them and the whoever ruled in their favor.
Right. And I don't know, in this one, I just saw something about it this morning. I don't know if this was a jury or if it was a bench trial. The previous one, where he was ordered to pay like $50 million, I think that was a jury, and they were kind of hung up for a long time about whether he was going to get any money or not. And then finally, this $50 million thing comes up. Yeah, I don't.
I wish I could get paid every time I got my feelings hurt. I wouldn't have any problems.
Right. And I think it goes to overall our society, where people think they have a right to not have their feelings hurt. Was the Sandy Hook shooting, was it absolutely horrible, horrifying? I can't imagine what it'd be like to go through something like that. But
you know what they did? You know what they did?
What's that?
How much is your life worth?
Well, yeah, I mean, mine probably not much, but yeah, but I mean, no, yeah.
Tell me how you're going to put a price on what your life is worth.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they do that is they look at, yeah.
People talk about how you're irreplaceable. There's no amount of money that would replace you.
Right.
Yes, there is.
Sure.
They just put a price tag on the people that they lost.
Yeah, and that's what they do in any of those kind of suits. And you sue for, when
again, in my opinion, that's the way it looks.
Yeah.
Maybe need to throw that out there every time. In my opinion, IMO and.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So I guess so is it? It brings the question to my mind: are people looking? What are they looking for? Are they looking for some kind of justice in their own mind, or are they simply looking for a paycheck? Are they looking for, hey, there's an opportunity for me to get some money from somebody who might have some?
They're probably going to tell you they're looking for closure.
And that's not going to bring.
If you can accept money to close the loss of your child, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Maybe they're looking just to take people like Alex Jones and just shut him up, sue him into out of existence.
Well, there'll always be another Alex Jones, but
there's going to be somebody, yeah. Okay, all right. Change the subject here. Something else that was brought up. Did you happen to see, and I only saw parts of it, the whole thing was too painful to watch. But there was an interview, I think MSNBC interviewed this Fetterman guy who's running for Senate in Pennsylvania.
No, I don't get a chance to watch much TV these days.
Yeah.
And I don't watch anything really live or news related.
So what I actually, so I watched it on YouTube because that's the only TV I've got. And something had caught my attention. Somebody mentioned something about this interview, and so I went and I found it and tried to watch it. So I don't know if you know anything about this Fetterman guy. He's running for Senate. Before the primary, shortly before the primary, he had a stroke, and he won the primary anyway. And so he has some definite, observable, significant impairment. The most noticeable thing in this interview is that he has this monitor set up because he can't comprehend speech. So you can speak to him, he can hear, but he has to see the words written out. So there's a teleprompter thing set up, has a closed captioning on it, and he can read and he can respond. Even responding seemed painful. And I don't know how much editing they did in the video before they aired the interview, because I know a lot of times they do a fair amount of editing. But even with what came through, and there were times that he clearly either didn't understand what was asked, or in trying to form his response, the words got all jumbled and he couldn't give as clear a response as you would expect. And then there was this one exchange back and forth where they were talking to him about his medical records and having those released so that people could see actually what the doctors were saying about his impairment and how it might have, and they're trying to get him to say, or to give his opinion as to why he should not release those, because other candidates, when they've had things happen, release the medical records. And I don't think he could understand what it was they were trying to ask him. So we've had a presidential candidate and now president, somebody who is obviously mentally impaired, some form of dementia, it appears to be. And now we have a senatorial candidate, once again a Democrat, with this impairment, and running in some of the, maybe even all the polls show him favored with the small lead. He might still lose. Dr. Oz is the Republican candidate. Yeah, and
we got some crazy people running for office.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I mean, crazy in that you wouldn't expect them to come from there. Not crazy, them crazy.
Right. You just, yeah, it's, wow.
Come from weird places now.
Yeah. Yeah. People who are not your typical candidates. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to ask. Maybe I'm trying to ask you, what is your opinion of these types of situations like we have had with the president, now the Senate candidate, where you have somebody running? My opinion is he should not be running for office. He should drop out of the race. If they wanted to hold some other kind of a, maybe let the whoever came in second on the Democrat side of the primary run or something. But when he had the stroke, he should have dropped out, or the leadership, the Democrat leadership, should have insisted he drop out. Instead, it's like they're happy almost that this guy has some impairment and he's still running and may win. Do you have any opinion, any take on any of that, or what you think?
I don't know. It's hard for me to make any opinion because I haven't seen any of the dialogue that led up to where the question you're asking me.
Yeah.
But I see, if it seems the way you say it seems to me that would be a perfect opportunity for them to show what they want to believe about people to believe about how much they care about people. And even though he's impaired, they want him in there to do the job. So it's an easy way for them to prove themselves. They might not like it, but it'd be an easy way for them to prove, even though they're not proving anything true.
Right.
But it appears as though they're supporting or doing what they say they want to do. Even though everything else that happens in this world goes against everything they say they want to do. This is a spotlightable situation here. It's kind of like helping the old lady across the street.
Right.
They might not even like the old lady. They just want to help her across the street because they want you to see them helping her across the street.
Well, they want to appear as if they're helping somebody across the street.
It'd be a good
Right.
political ploy. Now, is that true?
Yeah.
I don't know. All I can say is that if I was a Republican or a Democrat involved in that, and I did not feel he was capable
Hmm.
of being able to express himself in a way that would be beneficial to the American people, I would have to ask him to resign. But I'm not. I don't have a problem if I have to work with him. If there's a
Right.
little bit of work involved to get it across, fine. As long as he's still mentally capable, because that's what you're going by, mental, not
Right.
communicative. If he has problem communicating, but he's still mentally stable, I'd have no problem with it.
Okay.
Get him what he needs to be able to make that connection. The teleprompter, an interpreter, whatever. He needs. Yeah.
Right.
But you got to determine, do you think he's capable?
Right. And I think that's where the interviewer was trying to get with the medical records. I think that the voter had. I think that the interviewer was trying to get the point across that the voter has the right to know what the doctors think about his mental ability.
I don't agree with that. I don't know. I mean, in the '80s, if they found out you had AIDS, it doesn't matter what you could do. You were run off.
Well,
if the medical records are released and they found out, even if you're doing your job perfectly well, they found out you had AIDS, you were gone.
Well, right, but this might go to actual cognition. Can he?
How's a doctor going to know that? What does a doctor give you in his medical report? His opinion based on what he sees.
Right, but you at least be able to see maybe some of the tests that were run, or it's like with dementia. They have specific tests that they can test to see your ability to think and to remember and to function
in certain areas. Yes.
Yeah.
They're testing the parts of your brain that are affected.
Right.
But even that, I mean, there's people with dementia that still function fine. It depends on what that dementia is affecting.
Yeah.
So how are you going to know what the man can do? Because the doctor thinks that this part of his brain is going to mess him up, or because he's sitting there doing what he has to do.
Right.
Now, I also believe that if he decreases, if he gets to a point where he can no longer do what he's got to do, then he would be required to resign.
But how would you know that?
You don't.
You're not going to know, because he's going to have people around him who are going to be saying, push this button to vote here, or do this, or whatnot. And
I don't know. There's more to it than that, because if you think about that too, if he's going to need somebody to guide him, then somebody could guide him any way they want to guide him, couldn't they?
Right. And this is the reason why I think that Joe Biden ended up with the Democratic nomination for president, because it actually gives real power to those who are influencing and controlling him. The power doesn't reside necessarily in the person in the position. It resides in the person controlling the person in the position.
The speechwriter's got more power than the person speaking it.
Right. Yeah.
And you go from Trump, who was totally uncontrollable, to Biden, who is, I don't think he's mentally capable of doing much of anything on his own.
Right.
I think he has to be being, now I could be wrong,
but
I think he has to be being led. I don't see any, when he tries to speak freely, it goes so south that I just don't think he can, I don't think he has it.
I agree.
It might be like the man with the stroke. The stuff might be in his head. He just can't get it out.
Maybe.
So, same situation. If he can't do the job because he can't get it out, then he should be required to resign too. But now you're opening a whole can of worms as who gets to decide the criteria for not able to do the job anymore.
Well, and ultimately it resides with the voter.
Exactly, 100% with the voter.
And so that comes back. That comes back around to what information does the voter have a right to receive in order to make their and ultimately the answer is they don't have a right,
because of HIPAA. They don't have a right to any medical information.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to wonder, because so little of politics has to do with people. This is a situation where, it may not happen, but if he doesn't take the seat or resigns the seat, it opens the door to the possibility of a Republican taking that.
Yeah, so if he left the race now, and I'm trying to remember, is Pennsylvania's governor a Republican or a Democrat? I don't remember
anymore.
I can't remember.
He's a Democrat.
Because if he's elected and then resigns, then the governor gets to appoint somebody to fill the remainder of the term
Well, I don't
until
know.
there's a special election.
I was going to say there has to be it's an appointed until the election. Yes, because in Daniel's role as a council person, if you resigned before half of your term was up, then your replacement was appointed for the rest of that term.
Yeah.
If it was before half, then it was a special election to fill the seat.
Right. And along those same lines, this is just almost shifting gears a little bit, but going back to the president, it's been my belief since prior to the election that if he were elected, and he has been, that after the midpoint of his term, that then we may see him either step down or be removed, and because then the next person to fill that seat, which would be the vice president in this case, could fill the remainder of that term and serve 2 more terms, because that doesn't count towards the
cap on the
Yep. I don't know. We'll find out. So what about people allowing people to vote who, and again, it's just such a gray area, and maybe it's not the legality, but the morality of having people vote. Let me see how I want to try to create a scenario. Okay, let's suppose that you have a sibling who has a severe mental handicap of some point, Down syndrome or something. So maybe something even more than that, but where they really have a hard time forming their own choices and opinions. But you take this person to go vote, because they're going to vote for the people you tell them to vote for. And in fact, by law, you can go and assist them in casting their ballot. Because I know some situations where this is a thing. I remember seeing it a few years ago here in the county. It wasn't my race, but it was another sheriff's race, probably the 4 years before that, where there was specifically a person, I think, who took, probably a parent or somebody, took them down, took them into the voting booth and said, "This is who you're going to vote for," and they voted.
Are you asking me something specific?
I think my point is your opinion on the morality of that kind of thing. Should it be allowed? Yeah.
Who goes by morals anymore?
Well, okay. If hypothetically, if there was a, but you and I go by morals.
Yes, but we are in a small. I mean, some of the closest people in my life throughout my entire life have abandoned their morals to make decisions that benefited them. It's like, I see it as like the lock on a plastic toolbox.
Right.
It deters someone that doesn't really want to steal. But if somebody wants to steal, they don't care about. They're just going to break the plastic. It's easy to get to.
Take the whole toolbox.
Right. So if an opportunity occurs and you can sidestep your morals for a few to make a decision and then go ask for forgiveness, which we already know we can because the Bible tells us we can do whatever we want. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I think this is first off, this is an unfixable problem. It's something we just have to deal with. Because now you're getting into, is a person mentally capable of casting a vote? I think he should be mentally capable of casting a vote. If we have to define mental capability, does he understand? All right. I know plenty of people that don't know anything about any of the candidates. They're just going to vote because their buddies are voting, which means technically they're not mentally capable of making that vote because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's not something. What are you going to do? So you can't vote because you don't even know who he is? There's a lot of criteria you can put in that's going to take care of this. Do I think it should be handled? Yeah, I think. You know what? I'm going to put this right back to what I keep screaming about to all my friends.
Okay.
If this country lived the Christian life like they profess to live, none of this would be a problem.
Right.
Because if I saw you taking somebody in to cast a vote, I would stop you and say, no, you can't do that.
Right.
If they can't cast their own vote, they don't need to be there
Right.
because it's wrong based on right and wrong.
Right.
But that's for us to determine. We don't need legislation. We shouldn't have legislation.
No. You're right. We shouldn't have legislation there.
It should never happen because we're Christians.
But shouldn't there be? I think we're on the same page here. But my opinion is that the peer pressure from those around this person taking the other person to vote, the peer pressure should be, you're doing something wrong, and that person should not be held up and lauded for doing this thing that's going to help their side win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, it really shouldn't. Politics isn't about sides.
It shouldn't be.
It never was.
It wasn't intended to be.
No. I mean, in the beginning, the parties had the reason for the existence of the parties is because you didn't see the candidates. All you knew is what basic platform they stood for. That was it.
Right.
Unless you happened to be at the railroad tracks when they came through and talked to the back, you didn't know anything. Right. Now, there's not anything you don't know. There is no reason for political affiliations at all.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
All right. So personally, the first thing that needs to happen is all political affiliation and parties need to go away. All right. Second of all, term limits on any elected office. There should be a term limit.
I agree.
I don't mind if you can serve 2 and then get out and serve 2 more. That's fine.
Right.
Either way, you're going to have to do the right thing while you're in there if you want a chance of ever being elected again.
Yeah.
Anybody who says I'm a career politician, I just want to smack. Politics is not a job.
Right.
All right. It's something we do for our country. What we're supposed to do.
Right.
It's an obligation we should all feel. I think everybody should have to sit on the other side of the desk for a little while. Just to see they have no idea what's out. They have no idea what's involved.
Yeah. No, I agree. Of course, now with the way it is right now, they're going to take that break, and they'll become a lobbyist, and then they'll go back into politics. But that's a whole another thing that probably shouldn't even exist. The whole
lobbying shouldn't exist. Your pork belly stuff and all that, tort reform. I mean, there's so many things that have to happen before we could even get a chance at straightening this stuff out. And it's all stuff that's never going to happen.
Right. Because we have a moral problem.
Because there is no moral. Exactly. When you talk politics, people don't use their morals.
Right.
But again, there's a fine line again. With just give you an idea with the Clinton thing. The stuff he did that was immoral wouldn't have stopped me from voting for him. Where he lost me was when he tried to make a big deal of it. Right. When he said, depends on your meaning of is. Right. I did not have, what he should have said was, you know what? That's between me and my wife. Unless you can show where this affects what I'm doing here. Right. None of your business. That's what he should have said. I'd have voted for him again if he'd have done that.
Right.
Because I didn't have any problem with what he did as president.
Right. I mean, he was fiscally conservative. He
did a good job, all things considered. It was just that when he went stupid over the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just said, that just doesn't show any backbone. Not to me.
Right.
I would have said either come up with some proof that it's affecting this presidency or get out of my face.
Yeah.
That would have been it.
That sounds like something Trump might have said.
Not as probably as nicely.
Right.
And don't get me wrong. I think Trump I voted for Trump. I'd vote for Trump again. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about him.
Sure.
I wish he'd shut up more often.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
And it's almost like, that's in the last couple of years, he's become louder.
His whole vendetta against everybody, I had a problem with that. He should have just, if he wants to run again, see what happens. Don't tell me about what everybody's done to you or whatever. We already know about the inherent problems of this system. We know.
Yeah.
What we need is somebody to get in there and do something about it. So don't tell me about it. Don't read me the book again.
Right.
Get in there and do something.
Ron DeSantis, would you vote for Ron DeSantis?
I'd have to do a little more since I don't see anything publicly. Yeah. I don't know much about him.
He seems like a more, my opinion, he's a much more, he's a nicer version of Trump. He has that same kind of backbone, but he's not. He doesn't.
He's not in your face about it, and he doesn't have an attitude.
Yeah, now there's some attitude there, but it's different. Yeah, I mean, it's he doesn't take any crap from anybody. He'll take a reporter and put them in a place. Oh, stop, stop, stop. You're trying to say this about me. That's not, it's completely untrue. You know, we're not going to go there. We're not going to say that. Here are the facts.
Yeah.
But he's not on Twitter. He's not on doing the other stuff,
Publicity stunt
stirring a pot. I mean, yeah, he's done one publicity stunt, but I think I understand why he did it, and I think he made a really good point. So here's the difference I see between DeSantis and Trump. Trump kind of reacts sometimes the way, you know, an 8th grade kid might react, where DeSantis is far more cerebral about the way he does things. So he's the one who sent 50, it was Venezuelan, I'll call them refugees. Some people might say they were illegal immigrants, but they were in the country, and flew them to Martha's Vineyard because they said they were a sanctuary city. And everybody got all upset about it. But it brought attention to that point, which allowed him then to point the finger back at the federal government, who, as DeSantis said, they are sending every day thousands and thousands of people, and all over the fruited plain, that's how the word he used, and into small cities everywhere who don't have the money they have in Martha's Vineyard. They don't have the resources. They're not able to help these people. And they're doing this all over, and none of you are saying a word about it. And when he pointed the finger back, it suddenly got real quiet because nobody wanted to point out the obvious, that our federal government is doing all they can, it seems to me, to destroy small towns.
I'm trying to undermine small town life to start with.
Yeah, and
small town is where their threat's going to come from.
Right. Oh, yeah. You look at a map. You look at, you know, there are maps available showing how counties voted if they were Democrat, and when you see those and they're colored red and blue, man, it is a red map with blue areas where the population is pretty dense. But here's the problem I think the federal government is going to have is, I think that they believe, you know, eventually that these families are going to assimilate, they're going to become voters, they're all going to vote Democratic. But I believe they're wrong, because so many of these families come from countries where there are authoritarian governments in control, and they've had no rights, and they get here and they're smart enough to look and say, wait a minute, because we're seeing it now. You look how people voted in Florida in this past election, in highly concentrated Hispanic areas that had been Democratic for a long time, and those places flipped, and that's going to continue to happen. That's going to be part, I think, of the big red wave.
The thing I hate is it shouldn't be flipping from Democrat to Republican. It's because it's still a party thing.
It is still a party thing.
It was just, you know, it should be mixed all over the place.
It should be.
I mean, in the perfect world, you know, I told my wife when we got together, I am a massively logic-driven person, and part of my issues in life, and it may be related to what my doctor thinks is Asperger's or high-functioning autism, I don't do emotion.
Right.
I said, honey, if we're going to be with the kids and the grandkids, I said, all I can do is spit out a logical answer. I said, I need you to give me the feeling answer, what comes from the emotion. And then between the two of us, I'm thinking the answer is going to be somewhere in between. But I can't see the emotion like you do. I try. I don't see it.
See, what do you mean? Which emotion?
Any emotion. See, the way I see it right now, Republicans look to me like this is the way it is, and Democrats are going, yeah, but it feels like. The answer is in the middle of that. The Democrats, what the Democrats want to do, the true Democrats that I know, the caring that they have,
right,
is unquestionably good.
Oh, yeah.
And the governance that the Republicans have, the way they want to govern it to a manageable level, unquestionably good.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the answer, nobody's in the middle ground. They're trying to move further apart instead of come together.
Right.
And we're the guys standing there going, what are y'all doing? Y'all are flopping stuff over our heads at each other, and you don't even paying attention we're here.
Right.
What are you going to do if you win? What are you going to do if you win?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's their battle. It's not ours. We're not even part of the equation.
Right. That
it's
makes
like
sense.
a king, a queen, and 100,000 pawns on a damn chessboard. That's what it is.
There's a political cartoon that somebody put out recently. I don't remember where I saw it.
The king and the queen under the thing, and the pawn standing in the rain.
Well, it was something similar. It was king and the queen. It was a chessboard, and here's a king and the queen, and the king and the queen over here at a table, like eating dinner, and the pawns over here killing one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I think they want.
Right, because they're not going to be affected either way. Yeah, the elites, and that's what they want to get back to. I think they want to go back to medieval times. We are all just simply serfs serving their whim. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that slavery being as a hot button as it is, and people don't realize that that's what they're grooming us to be, is slaves. The only difference is they don't care if you're black or white. They just want slave.
Yeah.
There's no racism involved. They want everybody to bow down to them.
Yeah.
You want to know if the black man and the white man are equal to them, to those people up there?
Right.
We are. Because either one of us can push a lawnmower. Either one of us can
doesn't matter.
Serve them drinks. It don't matter. They don't see the color. They just want what they want in front of them. That's it. So we're all destined to be slaves if we don't do something about it. Now, will we be treated the way that we treated the black race back then? I don't know. I wouldn't say it's out of the question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's out of the question.
I wouldn't either.
What happened in Rwanda when the people we've revolted?
Yeah.
They went around with machetes and killed hundreds of thousands and wounded. They just kill people.
Yep.
And the rest of you, if you want to toe the line or not.
And those elites, worldwide elites who would like to see a great reset, many of them want a greatly reduced world population because it's
hard to control.
Yeah, easier to control when there's only 500 million instead of 8 or 9 billion. Yeah, whatever we're at.
They need a manageable number.
Yeah,
I just don't understand what they stand to gain, because where are they going to get money? I mean, if you reduce the workforce, then you reduce the tax base, unless you're just going to make us give you all their money. If we have to give them all our money,
they will own everything.
Will they even need money anymore?
No, they won't need money. They will own everything. They will allow the underlings to have enough to live,
to survive.
Yep. We can eat bugs while they eat steak.
Do you think there's a chance that could ever happen?
What, the eating bugs?
That we get to that point.
Where we're eating bugs, or you mean
where
that kind of control?
Gets that kind of control.
So there was a guy. BBC did an article on this a few years ago on the chance of a worldwide totalitarian something taking over, and there's a guy who wrote a white paper about what he referred to as the singleton. And the singleton would be a single entity, and it could be AI, it could be whatever, that would take over and run everything. And so this is an area where there aren't very many people who study the idea of totalitarianism and stuff taking over. Some of those who study it have put the odds of something like a natural disaster wiping out all of humanity as being something like 1 in 6,000 or something like that. They put the chance of a man-made disaster killing all of us, like a nuclear war, as something like 1 in 6. But the idea that this single entity, and it would most likely be some form of artificial intelligence, either somehow self-creating out of other artificial intelligence, or being created by somebody using technology we don't
Like
have yet.
Skynet.
Yeah, but they say that it's nearly inevitable, and it may be, and from a biblical point of view, I truly believe that when we read in Revelations and in some places in Daniel and other spots where it talks about the very last days, that, for example, in Revelations, the mark of the beast, and then there's there's the beast, and there's the image of the beast. That this image, which is going to be, so you'll have this person, and there's going to be this image which he is able to animate, to make speak, and can be interacted with. I believe that's going to be some form of artificial intelligence,
And a
and
hologram or something like that.
something, but it'll be something that will be controlled by some kind of powerful computer, maybe a quantum computer of some type, or something maybe we don't even have yet, that will be able to control and interact with. And if you want to buy or sell anything, you're going to have to either worship this image, which means you have to do what it says, or take the mark, which would be some digitized something in your hand or in your whatever, that's going to allow you to buy and sell stuff. And it's all going to be based on kind of an ESG type of a thing.
Well, yeah, but the question on that is, if you have to take that mark, is that accepting the number of the beast or whatever the hell they're talking about?
And you're right. So that brings me back around to the point that I try to make to people, and I don't think you and I have really talked about this much, but I try to encourage people to do all they can to be completely self-sustaining and not reliant on having to buy stuff from stores. And that's why you didn't get to see the garden I had this year. I had a pretty good garden this year, but what I have next year will be even better, because I'm learning every year, and I'm going to incorporate, some the word out of my head. I'm going to have some planters, some raised bed planters, actually be waist high, so that you don't have to get on my hands and knees to work in them. But some raised bed planters I can grow things like potatoes and sweet potatoes and stuff in. Yeah, my goal for my family here is to be able to sustain ourselves 100% off of the land we have. And you don't need as much as we've got. You can be self-sustaining, or nearly so, on as little as a half acre. Yeah, that's something I've been preaching for the last year and a half to those who I think would listen to me, that you need to, so that we can resist this kind of a thing.
We've already had all of these things shown to us in the cinema,
right?
And numerous different things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, if for what it's looking like they want to happen, it's not going to happen in a war. It's not going to happen on a ground war. If anybody attacks this country, it's going to be another Vietnam. What was the problem in Vietnam? I said, everybody's got a gun and you don't know where the hell they are. They're not together. Guerrilla warfare hobbled us.
Yeah.
All right. The United States, it would be guerrilla warfare.
Absolutely.
Okay. There's not, they can't, unless they flatten every single thing in the country and have nothing left.
Yep.
Skynet-ish.
Right.
And, then there's no, it's not going to happen that way. They don't have to worry about taking our guns away, because it's just, they're not going to get them.
Right.
And they think they know how many are out there. I think they said there was like 300 million guns and 80 million gun owners. That's only that they know of. So
there's probably far more than that.
Far more than that.
And
I know
far
people
more
make
gun
their own
owners
guns and make their own bullets.
Yeah.
And you got plenty of Democrats who scream for gun control who have a gun at home.
Right.
So it's not even going to be about that. It's going to take for all I know, Corona might have been a practice shot this last COVID, but it's going to take something like that if they want to weed down us. You can't fight us gun to gun. You can only fight us life to life. You're going to have to kill us without having to fight us. That's the only way they're going to have a chance.
Yeah. So if you can control the economy and what you can buy and sell, then you can control the people without having to fire a shot.
Yeah, but they don't want to control the people. They want their servants. They want their group of servants, and the rest of them they don't want.
But don't they want us all to be their servants, though? I mean, in a way.
Well, it's like you have to consider the fact again, the manageability.
But once you can control the economy, once you can control who can buy and sell food and gas and who can have a job and who can't, well then you can start controlling other things, because then you can control how people vote. Then you can make it okay, and I to
yes, in theory,
to change the Constitution and to make it okay, even in violation of the Constitution, to arrest people based on political opinion or affiliation. And I mean, are we seeing some of that already with the January 6th stuff? People arrested and being held without bail over little or nothing, or people being investigated over little or nothing.
You know how many people don't know about that?
Right. I mean, to have a swarm of FBI agents and unmarked cars come and surround your car at a fast food drive-in and come up and take your phone from you. And now you can't operate your business for a few days till you get a new phone sorted out. Well, suppose you couldn't even go buy a new phone anymore. Or suppose that they pressure the phone company to suspend your service, and you can't communicate with people anymore. Your business becomes dead in the water. You can't. And now, the credit card companies, and I talked about this a few weeks ago. Credit card companies have agreed to a new designation specifically for gun and ammo sales. So a credit card company or your debit card company, your bank, does not have to let you spend anything any place. And so they can simply turn your card off if you start making purchases they don't like. And I think that's how it's going to end up controlling people. If you can't buy food, what are you going to do?
Well, I don't know that there wouldn't be a mass military revolt in this country because of the sheer number of gun owners, and ammo and all the stuff that we have.
There might be.
What good it would do.
But let's say that
you might play to their advantage to have us kill off some of ourselves.
Maybe. But what would we do? Let's say that we wanted to have a mass revolt. We were to somehow mass an army right here where we live, but we couldn't transport it anywhere.
Well, see, that's your off-grid thing. We can make our own fuels. There's all kinds of things that we can do that would take mass preparation, which they would surely know about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're hobbled. The question is, do you do anything or do you just go with the flow? I mean, when you talk about it, it sounds like there's no point even hoping for a solution.
Okay.
Because if you attack the government, they're just going to go underground anyway.
Right. So I don't think we have to attack the government. I see in our country, and I think in the world, I'm seeing this clear divide between two groups of people, and it's not aligned along any political party. I see those who believe and want a totalitarian system, and those who believe and want individual freedom on the most basic level. And those of us who are freedom loving need to be as independent as possible. So they can't control us. Now, they can prevent me from being able to get in my truck and drive back out west and see the Grand Canyon again or doing whatever. But if I can grow my own food, unless they're going to come and physically take it from me, physically take this land from me, they can't stop me from supporting myself that way.
Land that you technically don't even own?
right, which you technically don't even know. But you know, if but in the end, if we believe in a biblical view, in the end we know who wins.
I got a hair in my eye.
Uh-oh. We know who's going to win, and we know what the ending is, and they don't believe it. They think that they can, they don't. I think that most of those who are in the extreme end of totalitarianism and who want to control everybody and everything, they're putting themselves in God's place, and they want to believe that they have that power and authority, and so they're not going to believe in God or that He's going to do anything to them, or that there's going to be in the end where Christ is going to return and He's going to be great. I happen to believe the Bible, and so no matter what they do to me, no matter what happens, if they came and killed me tomorrow, it's okay, because you didn't win. If you kill me, you didn't win. You just killed this body. I'm still going to live.
The next stage, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be resurrected one day, and you're killing me is not going to stop the Messiah's return.
Not in the end, even the winners are going to lose. They just don't want to believe it, because their motivation is not the same. Their motivation is not. I think you're going to find that most of the people that are wanting this kind of control are don't really believe in an afterlife to start with.
No, you're right.
They got nothing to answer to but what's right in front of them right now.
Yeah. And since there's no higher governing moral authority to answer to, whatever they want, right or wrong, is fine. All the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at some of your bigger players, you make you wonder. Your Bill Gateses. I mean, they're openly non-Christian.
Yeah.
Atheist or whatever it is, agnostic, whichever one it is, doesn't really believe in anything. But
and to me, it's hard for me to understand how you can logically, even from a logical standpoint, look at everything and go, there's no God. Because just mathematically, the odds of this just happening are so astronomical as to be an impossibility.
Now, whatever belief you have about why we're here, something somewhere had to be created.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
And it's the desire to know what that is that gets people in trouble. Where did God come from?
That doesn't matter.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
So,
that doesn't matter.
I wouldn't need to know where my mother and father came from for them to still be my mother and father.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we got off on an interesting
tangent. We did.
We had talked about not talking about these very things.
I know, man. That's exactly where we went. Right down it. Woo! That's all right. It's okay.
Hopefully people can relate to that. But
I hope so. I think they will. Man. So tell us what you think. We're just over here talking and kind of ignoring y'all out there. But we know you're there. Man, tell us what you think. Tell us what you want. If there's some subject you want us to talk about and to discuss, just let us know. Put it in the comments. We will do the best we can to bring it up. We can't guarantee it's going to stay there for long because we don't ever really know where this is going to end up. But yeah, cool. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a good morning.
Yep, it has.
Yep.